Okay, I'm pretty excited. Today is bumper day for this here 2020 Jeep Gladiator Sport model with just the plastic bumper on it. What has arrived today is my Smittybilt Stryker Bumper, which will also get these outer corners over here. Those are some wings that attach to it to make it a full width bumper, but they're removable to make it a stubby. Opening the large box, we can see it looks pretty well packaged in here. We've got the main heavy steel part. I think it's the winch cradle. The hardware says open this first. That probably includes instructions. This upper bar that holds the light up on it and is a protection. So let's get all this out. All right, here we're looking at the hardware box open and all the different packages and brackets. A little daunting seeing that many. Of course, one of the bags did break open, and so now I have a box full of loose hardware. It received a instruction manual, installation instructions, and it looks like it is in color. That's nice to see full color pictures describing how to install this. Okay, I've just completed removing the bumper and the factory metal skid plate. That wasn't too difficult, but just be aware the instructions do not give you the size of sockets that you need for the bolts. It just says remove bolts. They could improve that there. And it also doesn't seem to really tell you to go to the inside of the frame rail. So after you loosen the two nuts out here and the one bolt on this side, make sure you also go to the inside of the frame rail. You've got the same thing on both sides, and you have to remove all those. Okay, next step, we need to remove the OEM fog lights out of the stock bumper. I have the plastic bumper. Inside the plastic bumper is this metal support that had 4 bolts holding it in. Took the 4 bolts loose. That allowed me access to the wiring harness that ran underneath it. I was able to pull all the little plastic connectors out, and now I'm taking out the screws with this tiny Torx bit from the lights. Now the instructions clearly say to remove 4 screws from the lights. My lights only have 3 screws. Just imagine how this is gonna work. Okay, I just unpackaged the well-packaged winch mount part, and I've got over here to install it. And it looks like this side is actually bent in out here in this outside corner, so I'm gonna have to bend that back. Okay, so ran into a few hiccups. As I pointed out, the actual winch mounting portion was bent. That doesn't seem to be a problem here now. As I suck up these bolts, it easily straightens this out. So that's not a big problem. Nowhere in the instructions are these pieces referenced, but because this is going on a Gladiator, they do need to go in between here. It's a little spacer. It will push the bumper out further. It's going to allow a winch to be mounted behind it without hitting the grill here, because the grill does stick out further. So just a few things to learn there. Also, when I called their support line, they described what this piece is, as it's nowhere in the instructions, but it will go down at the bottom of the skid plate and hold the bottom edge of the skid plate in place. So just a few concerns. Also, not a single one of these washers that they sent fit onto the M12 bolt. Fortunately, I've got a stash of stainless steel washers here, and we'll be able to use those. When I had them on tech support, they told me that these outside bumper brackets that tied into the frame came off of the original bumper. Those should be reused and tied in out here on the outside. You can see now I've got this spacer installed in between that pushes the bumper out, and I'm also starting these outside brackets. So these instructions do not cover that at all. So much for the beautiful colored pictures. Doesn't really apply. Okay, I'm reinstalling this after putting the spacers in place and the side brackets. Looking at the gusset brackets, it doesn't give you a lot of information. It's difficult to figure out what's where. These brackets are over here on the side, and they bolt into the back side of this, and they provide a support with 2 bolts on the left side, 1 bolt on the right side. I was bolting it up there and noticed there was a gap between this frame piece hanging down and this side piece here, and then found these large like washer spacers that aren't even described anywhere in the instructions. So it looks like these fit perfectly behind on each side and take up that gap. So that's where they're going to be installed at. The thing I wanted to note was that there was like 12 of these longer M12 bolts, and then there were 2 of these shorter ones. Nowhere does it indicate where the shorter ones go, but you find out that you have to have them in here going into the frame. So those 2 short bolts are to go down here in the gussets with the spacer behind it into the drop-in piece up here that has the nut on it. All right, I have the winch plate completely mounted up. Notice that you do reuse the outside brackets and a bolt there. You do have these inner ones. They're like underneath gussets. You do have a little piece that drops down that has 2 nuts on it. You only use 1 of those nuts on the JT, and that is mounted in. You just basically level it up and get it all tightened up, and it's there. With the winch plate installed, it's now time to mount up the winch, the instructions say. So here we go. I'm going to be mounting up the Smittybilt X2O waterproof winch. It's a 12,000 pound one with synthetic line. I think it's last generation, but I liked it because it included the wireless remote, has the synthetic line, and it was on clearance. So good price. The Smittybilt winch is mounted, and it wasn't too difficult to mount that up. Ran the wires around the side, just underneath the inner fender liner and up to the battery. Next up is getting the lights to fit in the front of the bumper. So it indicated there were 4 screws. Mine only have 3 screws. Just look, the single tab on mine goes outward. I want that same alignment. I'm thinking I can just cut off this protruding part here, and I'll put some self-tappers through it into the bracket and do that on both sides. And of course, the spot welds on my bracket have broken loose right here. So that's gonna have to be mended as well. Okay, so I've trimmed down the part of this 3 attachment point light that was protruding forward. I trimmed it off flush there, and now I'm just gonna mount them on top of these brackets here and put them together with some self-tapping screws or some small screws and bolts. Okay, I finished trimming the lights. As you can see here, I trimmed off this one edge over here. I just put a screw in each side, a self-tapping screw, and those are secure. The back of my lights are all taped up, and because when I removed the fender, the bumper closeouts, I wanted to keep water from getting into them. Some people had said that happens, so I just taped them up real good. But both sides are secure now, and a little epoxy down here on the welds that broke. And these things seem pretty secure, so we're ready to continue putting this together. Okay, here it is. It is installed, not the end wings yet, just the main stubby portion. I even put an LED light in the top there. It's a 13-inch one. It's got the skid plate down here, as you can see on the bottom. I have the Smittybilt winch installed, and the synthetic rope just put on there hand tight. I know I still need to go out and tension it all. I think it all went together pretty well. It was really simple to hook the winch up to the battery. There was an extra spot with an extra large lug right there to hook on the ground, and there was an extra open spot right there to hook the positive on. Very simple to run those cables up there. The most difficult part was figuring out which hardware went where on this. They gave me no washers that fit the larger bolts, but all in all, I think it came out okay, and I had the extra hardware here, so that's good. And the part that was bent earlier just simply straightened out as I tightened up the bolts. I think I'll put the wings on it now. All right, here's the bumper with a stubby end. As you come around, there's 6 bolts that attach the ends. And there's the bumper with the wing attached. It also will hold 2 lights inside of the wing. There are brackets up here to mount the LED lights. I have one purchased and we'll put it in there. See if I want to add another. All right, the Gladiator bumper is complete. That again is a Smittybilt Stryker with the wings attached. I put in the Smittybilt winch, got some orange shackles, and the wings have been attached to the stubby bumper. All in all, I'd say it was fairly difficult to install. Not very good directions. The instructions never indicated exactly which bolts, washers to use. And when it did, you didn't have the washers to fit the bolts. At least one bolt wouldn't go in on the wings because it was kind of bent out of shape. I couldn't get the hole to line up. And then the lights did not mount up just straightforward. I had to screw those in with self-tappers. I love the look though. It did take me probably 7 hours to complete this project with the winch installation, and I have a LED light bar mounted in there, although it's not hooked up yet. So that's the Jeep Gladiator JT with the Smittybilt Stryker Bumper.